Hey gardeners, especially all of you new and future gardeners out there, thank you so much for joining with me here on today's video. I wanted to tell you just a little bit more about myself, share with you my garden story, and let you know just a little bit more about the Urban Gardener channel. Again, everybody, thank you so much for joining with me here for today's video. And before we really get started here, if you can, write down in the comment section below, can you share with me about your garden journey? I'd love to hear about if you're a new gardener or if you've been gardening for years. Let me know how long. Let me know where it got started. Did you get started growing when you were a kid, say with your parents or grandparents or something like that? Or are you like me and you found gardening much later in life? So get down below in the comments and I'd love to hear all about it. So all right, everybody, my name is Enoch Graham and I am the host of the Urban Gardener channel, as well as our Let's Get Growing live show every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And we've got some of the greatest guests you're gonna find on our show here every weekend. So you won't wanna miss out on any of those. I'll put a link right down below to our live page so you can go back and check out some of our previous shows, and be sure to come and check us out for some of our upcoming ones as well too. Now, I've been a small space urban gardener here in my gardens in Southern Oregon for about 12 to 13 years now, but I've also been gardening for about 14 or 15 when it comes to growing my own food, as I'll share with you in my how I got started here in just a minute. But I've been actually growing and had a passion for plants since I was a young kid, and my mom got me started with propagating my own plants from some of hers that she had. In fact, this spider plant right here. Spider plants were my very first plant that I had. I got some of these little spiderlets and started my own plant, and I had that in my bedroom when I was really young, and it grew into a big old plant, started producing its own spiderlets. And from that point on, I was hooked as far as plants were concerned. But my gardening story as far as growing food and getting outdoors and doing some of the small space gardening that we do here on our channel started way back when I said about 14 or 15 years ago, and I was living up north from here in the Seattle area. And because I have all of these plants, and I've taken plants with me wherever I go throughout my whole adult life, one of my friends thought they would bring to me a small little cucumber start. And he said, I didn't know what to do with this, so I figured you would, because of course I have all of these plants, but I never grew anything for food before. I'd never done that. So the challenge was set for me to figure that out back then. And so I immediately went to YouTube and started looking up how to take care of this little plant start, and got myself a little pot and some soil. And the one thing I knew for sure before I learned anything about it was that it needed to get outdoors. But I only lived in this little apartment, and all I had was this little balcony to grow this plant on outdoors. So I went out, put that pot out there on the balcony, and was completely surprised and amazed as it took over the whole balcony through the summertime, winding its vines through all of the different grates in the balcony gate there, and eventually started producing a bunch of cucumbers. And I just couldn't believe it. I cut up some of those cucumbers as they were my daughter's favorite fruit. So we were sitting there eating these cucumbers, and she was completely amazed at the fact that I was telling her that I actually grew those and they came from the plant that was right outdoors in our balcony. So immediately my mind was blown, and I was right on the road to more and more gardening and growing fun right from that very first experience with that cucumber. I'll never forget it, and it's the reason why I'm here today, ultimately, because this passion was really flared inside of me, and I just had to get more and do more. So I set off for that next spring to grow even more on that balcony there. So we started looking into, tomatoes and lettuces and radishes and all sorts of different things, peppers and I just couldn't get enough of anything. Started collecting seeds like crazy and started growing my own plants. And for me, as a gardener who had never really grown food before, there was a lot of learning to do, which was so fortunate that at that time, YouTube was really starting to take off and the gardening community on YouTube was really starting to grow. So there were a ton of really, really awesome gardeners out there showing all of their different gardening experiences and sharing them with all of us and me. So I was able to learn a lot more about how to take care of all of these plants. So that's what I did right there on that apartment balcony for that next spring, and grew a bunch more stuff. I, maybe wasn't completely successful with a lot of things like that cucumber plant was right off the bat. I was really fortunate about that being so successful to get started with. But, that was just a part of the learning and growing experience for me. But it was in that next year, through that winter, that I had moved down here from Seattle to Southern Oregon, and kind of changing the whole thing up for myself. We were no longer limited to that small balcony on our apartment. Our space grew just a little bit more. At least that's what was in my mind when I first started gardening here in my spaces that we have here at my home now. Back in the back area here, I have basically what is, I would say maybe a 15 by 15 foot cement back patio space, and just a little strip of in-ground growing space. So at first, I really was kind of centered my mind on that little strip and started again growing some tomatoes and peppers and different things that we could grow in that space there, as well as cucumbers, of course. But we started growing there, and then it was really during that first growing season here in our spaces here that I noticed my neighbor right across the alleyway grew right back behind his house along the alley there. All sorts of great stuff as well too, again, cucumbers, squash, tomatoes, peppers, corn. In fact, that was probably one of the most amazing things about his garden space that he had, is he grew this really tall, and we're talking like 14, 15 foot white Mexican corn that he grew in the back alley space. And I was just really blown away by that. So that really encouraged me to start taking the next steps in my growing space, especially with that back cemented patio. So I started building my own elevated raised beds out of wood, and discovered on a channel that I really loved following, Kang Star's channel, I discovered these earth buckets, a water wicking self-watering bucket system that we made out of 5-gallon buckets, which we feature here on our channel as well. I'll put a link down below as well to our garden bucket videos too, so you could get started with some of those if you have just very limited space as well too. They're just amazing bucket system, and really helped me out as far as getting my garden space growing in those next coming seasons, and helping me find a lot of really great success as well too. So that's what we did. We kind of built up the whole space with these elevated raised beds, the bucket system, and at that point in time, again, as gardeners who have just an overwhelming passion for growing like I do, that space just wasn't enough. So again, I started looking to my neighbor and what he was doing with growing right there on the alleyways. So there was a back alleyway to our property and everything. So I got back there and started growing my own corn, growing kale and all sorts of things that we were utilizing that space for. And then on the inside of the fence, which got most of the sun for us back there, that's when I really started setting up my tomatoes that we grow there every year, and doing all the other things, the squash, the pumpkins, and all of that sort of stuff in that back space there. And then eventually started taking over more and more of our alleyway space. I'm really fortunate. I don't have just one alleyway on my block. We have actually kind of a T, where we have two alleyways that kind of tee up together in our block there. And my house just kind of sits right on that tee. So I'm able to utilize all of that space around the alleyways there to grow even more. So we put in some in-ground raised beds, and I've got some giant felt pots and all of that we grow in as well. Also, The one thing, and this is where the story kind of changes a bit more and takes us to where we are today, is that again, looking for more space to grow more things in what we had available to us, I eventually started looking up, and we had a carport, a flat carport roof that we have in the back there. And at that point in time, I was like, you know what? That's probably where I'm going to get the best full sun. And by that time, too, I was just really, really into growing peppers. I still love growing peppers. It's one of my favorite things. But we decided to put some of those wicking buckets, those earth buckets, and I built a whole bunch of them up and put them up onto that flat carport rooftop there. And then for the next few years, that was basically our pepper garden. I mean, at one point, I think we had up to about 30 different plants up there growing, and it was really, really fun. But that's when I started catching some attention. I mean, at that point in time, you've got these buckets and these pepper plants growing like crazy up there on this rooftop, and from that rooftop it could be seen all over my neighborhood, all over the neighborhood. I had people starting to walk by and to check by what I was doing there with our pepper garden. And eventually too, after we got the channel started, had some neighbor call in to the authorities as well, wondering what it was I was actually growing up there. So we did have, at one point in time, had the police stop by in order to check out what it was that was growing up there. But eventually here in Oregon, of course, most people know those sort of things are now legal to grow up there. So there ain't any problem anyway when it comes down to it. But they were just peppers growing up there. And again, too, like I said, this caught a lot of attention from everybody. And at that point in time, I started getting people walking by and checking out what it was that we were growing up there, and noticing the things that we were growing along the alleyways, and my back patio being kind of open. People could see everything that I was growing as far as that was concerned. And people found it really fascinating, found it really kind of cool, and kept coming by and asking me more questions. And eventually I had a couple of times somebody who had walked by tell me that I should start sharing or even making videos when it comes to what we were doing with all of our garden spaces back there. And of course, like I said, I've been on YouTube already now for years, following lots and lots of gardeners who grow here on YouTube and learning so much from all of them that, I don't know why I never really thought about it before or saw myself doing that sort of thing. But it was because of the encouragement of some of those people who came by, some friends and family as well too, that I decided to go ahead and point the camera in my direction and on our gardening spaces, and started sharing with all of you here on the Urban Gardener channel about 8 years now. I mean, this is amazing too, but we've been on YouTube now for 8 years and sharing all sorts of different things that we've been growing over the years with our channel here. So again, we've got lots of great videos already that we've made. I've got lots more videos in mind as we keep moving forward and growing this channel as kind of a more serious thing. I haven't really, I mean, it was started just for fun, just to kind of share these spaces and everything, like I said. But over the last couple of years, I kind of thought about it just a little bit more seriously than I did before. And so in the next coming years and seasons here on the Urban Gardener channel, we're going to be growing even more and sharing with you even more all of the things that I've learned along the way in all of these years of growing in my garden spaces, to help share with you about how you can maximize your urban small space gardens and grow more food for yourself as well too. So again, I would encourage you all to make sure that you subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, so that you can follow along with all of these great garden adventures that we have here on the Urban Gardener channel. And as well too, like I mentioned just a little bit earlier, we do have our live show every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, where we get together and talk with the whole wider garden community. that was one of the things that, in a way, kind of, like I said, encouraged me to keep going, was all of these great YouTube gardeners out there and all of those other folks, maybe yourself included, who share your gardening experiences with everybody else here on YouTube and other social media. So a couple of years back, I thought, how fun would it be to take the sort of live streaming capabilities that we have with our channels to start up my own gardening talk show? Because again, I was encouraged by all of these gardeners and great gardeners. I wanted to get them on our show and talk with them about their garden experiences, their garden stories and journeys, and to be able to share with that and everybody else in the gardening community. And it's been such a great fun new adventure for us here on the Urban Gardener channel. We've had well over 100 shows now that we've done, talking with some of YouTube's most prominent YouTube gardeners out there, like Mark Valencia from Self-Sufficient Me. We've had James Prigioni from the great James Prigioni Gardening Channel. We've had John Kohler, gardener Scott Wilson, you know, so many more. You want to check out our live page. Like I said, I've got a link down below so you can check out all of our past shows, and we've just had some amazing conversations. And in the long run, I can't believe that, you know, starting, like I said, nearly 15 years ago with a small little cucumber start, that I would be here all these years later. I mean, if someone would have told me back then that you would be hosting your own YouTube channel and a gardening talk show, I would have told you were out of your mind. There's no way I could have saw myself doing that sort of thing. But because of the gardening community, because of my passion for growing plants and all of that is what it is, here I am sharing with all of you. And I really appreciate every one of you who do take your time to follow along with us here on the Urban Gardener channel. It really does make this whole adventure so much fun and so worth it when it comes down to what time it takes in order to put all of this sort of stuff together. So again, I really appreciate you all, even if you are new to the channel, like I said, and just subscribing. I really appreciate all of you who follow along with what we do here. You really make it special. So thanks again, and I hope that I can see you on one of our upcoming shows or our upcoming videos in the comments section. I really appreciate that as well too, all of your comments and clicking the like button and all of that. And it's just, again, been really special, and I can't wait to make some more videos and contents and see you on our live streams coming up. So again, I'll see you all on our next gardening adventure.